If you're not already using something like this to clean your hearing aids, what are you waiting for? Hey guys, Cliff Olson, Doctor of Audiology and founder of Applied Hearing Solutions in Phoenix, Arizona, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to use microsuction so you can clean your hearing aids like a pro. I don't think a lot of people truly realize just how much they're putting their hearing aids through on a daily basis. Essentially, hearing aids are like tiny little supercomputers, but instead of living in a clean, dry, climate-controlled environment, they live on and or inside of your dirty ears for 10 to 18 hours a day in most cases. And the amount of dead skin cells, dander, hair, sweat, and earwax that works its way into your hearing aids is mind-boggling, and it's kind of disgusting. Now, most hearing aid users schedule regular appointments with their hearing care professional every 3 to 6 months to have professional cleaning and maintenance done on their devices. This is equivalent to getting your car professionally detailed, and if we're being honest with each other, your car is probably just as dirty as your hearing aids are. The difference is your car can still run well even if it's dirty on the inside and out. The same cannot be said for your hearing aids though, because just a little bit of debris and moisture buildup in the wrong places can significantly negatively impact your hearing aid performance. But even when you get your hearing aids professionally cleaned every 3 to 6 months, the performance of your hearing aids is on a gradual decline in between these cleanings. This is why I train all of my patients to do weekly cleanings on their hearing aids to maintain their performance level in between their professional visits. And for some of my patients, I even recommend that they invest in a Jodi Vac so they can do some of their own microsuction at home. Now, before I share why you should also do some microsuction on your own hearing aids at home, do me a huge favor and click the like button. It really helps out the channel. And if you are not yet subscribed to the channel with notifications turned on, go ahead and do that as well. It is greatly appreciated. And let me know down in the comment section what you do to maintain your own hearing aids in between your professional cleaning visits. Okay, so I actually use a Jodi Vac inside of my clinic to perform my professional hearing aid cleanings. The only difference is I use the commercial version of the Jodi Vac called the Jodi Pro, where this one is the consumer version. The consumer version has a little bit less suction power at 18 inches of mercury, whereas the Pro version has a suction power of 22.5 inches of mercury. This is about 25% more suction power with the Pro version versus the consumer version. However, even at 18 inches of mercury in suction power, that is plenty of suction for most people when cleaning their own hearing aids. Perhaps the biggest difference between the Pro version and the consumer version is the price. You can typically snag the consumer version for around $113. The Pro version will typically cost you around $246. Now, I will have links for the consumer and the Pro version of the Jodi Vac down in the description if you want to check them out for yourself. When you order a Jodi Vac, it comes with a variety of different things. Primarily, you have the suction unit here that has an on-off switch to it. It does have a port there on the side that you can plug in the power supply. This does not have an internal battery, so you have to have it plugged in if you actually want to use it. It also has the vacuum tube that's permanently fixed to the unit here, but that goes down to a replaceable Jodi filter. Now, for the tip of the Jodi filter here, it comes with a suction needle here that you just press on right there to attach. You also get what they call a reamer, which is basically just a little needle right there that you can push through the tip of the suction needle if you need to go ahead and clear out some debris that is packed inside of there and prevents it from suctioning. Now, the reason why this Jodi filter is replaceable is because you will build up wax and debris inside of the chamber here, and it will prevent it from suctioning. So that's why they send you an extra one right off the bat, but you can purchase extras of these online as well. Now, I do want to spend a minute talking about the little suction tip here. So the one that it comes with is the pink one. Now, I actually prefer to use the pink one in my clinic because they have different colors and diameters of openings on these needles. The blue color suction needles have the smallest openings, the pink ones have the medium-sized openings, and the black ones have the largest sized openings. The amount of suction that you actually get from these different tips will vary. The smaller you go in tip size, the more suction you'll have. The larger you go, the less suction power you'll have. I happen to think that the opening for the blue color tips is just too small. It gets plugged up too easily with earwax and other debris. That's why I tend to go with the pink one. Of course, to actually use the Jodi Vac, you have to first plug it in like I have here, and then you have to flip the switch. Once you flip that switch, you can kind of hear it vibrating unless you don't wear your hearing aids while you're doing the cleaning, and then you may not be able to hear it. But the reason that you can tell that it's working is because this little white ball that's inside of there gets pulled up to the top of the filter. If I turn this off, you can see how that ball drops back down to the bottom. If I turn it back on, it goes back up to the top, letting you know that you're able to suction out your hearing aids. Now, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, as you suction more and more debris from your devices, it will get trapped into the bottom part of the filter chamber here, to the point where even when you turn on the suction, that ball is not going to be sucked up to the top of the chamber on the top part here, which means that you need to replace the filter at that point. Okay, so now that you know how the Jodivac actually works, how do you actually use it to clean out your hearing aids? All right, so first and foremost, I recommend that you clean out the microphones of your hearing aids. Now I have a couple of examples here that I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna hold this up to the camera, and those little tiny black holes that you see there on the hearing aid, those are the microphone ports. You have a couple of them usually on every hearing aid that you work with. You have a couple on the top and usually have one towards the back. And that allows the hearing aid to perform directionality and just pick up the sound from your environment. Now they may be located in different places depending on the hearing aid that you're working with, but generally speaking there, you're looking for those little black holes on the hearing aid themselves. Those are what you want to clean out. And the same is true when it comes to custom in-the-ear hearing aids. You have little microphones on there as well. Now, if you're going to be cleaning out those microphones, I typically recommend that you start off by brushing them out. So most hearing aids come with these little brushes here, and you want to brush out those microphone ports before you suction out all that broken up debris. So now that I have this one brushed out, I can turn it on and I can go in here and actually start suctioning out those little microphones that are on the top of the hearing aid and the microphones that are on the back of the hearing aid. So there we go. So now I have all the debris that was inside of those microphone ports pulled out. Now sometimes you may hear some actual slurping sounds when you're suctioning out those microphones, and that is actually skin oils that have worked their way into your hearing aids, and that can wreak havoc on the performance of a hearing aid. In fact, if you hear that, there is a possibility that your hearing aids are internally malfunctioning and you'll want to go see your hearing care professional for them to perform a test box measure on them. Now once you have the microphones cleaned on your hearing aids, there's a couple other areas I do encourage that my patients suction out of their devices. One of them is the battery compartments on these hearing aids. A lot of debris can work its way into these little battery compartments there, and so what I want you to do is go ahead, open that up, and you want to be very careful because you don't want to bend the contact points to the battery inside of there, but you're just going to go in there and suction out all the debris that has worked inside of that hearing aid. This will give you some level of understanding what I'm doing here, and I'm just being very careful not to bend those contact points inside of that battery compartment. Now, if you have a custom hearing aid or custom ear molds, you may also have vents on those. So you can see here, you have the little white tip there, that's your wax trap or wax filter, but that little black hole that's right below it there, that is a vent of the hearing aid. If that gets plugged up with earwax, it can make your own voice sound really boomy and loud to yourself, and it can give you insertion loss where you actually feel like you have earplugs in your ears even when you're wearing your hearing aids. So again, you want to go in with this little suction, micro suction tool here, and you're going to actually suction out the vent on here the best that you can. Now, you want to make sure that you're very careful when you're doing this suction, because if you're too rough with it, you can actually break the earpiece. This is, of course, if you have an acrylic earpiece like the one that I have here. If you have a titanium earpiece or a silicone rubber earpiece, you can be as rough as you want with those. Now, I showed you the wax trap on this hearing aid. Now, you can also use microsuction on these wax traps. Most people will actually take a wax filter and just go ahead and replace it anytime it gets dirty. So you guys have probably seen these little wax filters. I can go in and pull out the old wax filter, replace it with the new one, but some people produce so much earwax that they would literally have to do this a couple times a day. So instead, you can take your microsuction device and just very gently go into that wax trap and pull any wax out of it and prevent that wax from covering the little screens that are in there so it can emit sound back into your ear canal. Now again, the thing that you want to be careful for here is not to push this in too hard, because you can actually bust through the wax trap and actually incorporate wax down into the receiver of the hearing aid, which will make it permanently damaged, and then you have to go back to your hearing care professional for them to fix it for you. Now, when you get a professional cleaning, your hearing care professional is typically disassembling different components of these hearing aids and micro-suctioning out everything that has worked its way into the devices. I want to be very clear here. I am not telling you to disassemble your own hearing aids. Do not do that. That has the potential of voiding your warranty. It also has the potential for your hearing care professional to get really mad at you, and not just you, but mad at me as well. That being said, just suctioning out these different parts of your hearing aids can significantly improve their overall performance in between your professional hearing aid cleanings. And when you think about it, it only costs between $113 to $146 to maintain your hearing aids that likely cost you thousands of dollars. I'll also say that patients of mine who regularly perform microsuction on their hearing aids at home run into significantly less maintenance-related issues, which reduces the likelihood that they'll have to go through expensive hearing aid repairs. So if you want to maintain your overall hearing aid performance in between your professional hearing aid cleanings, and you want to save money on expensive hearing aid repairs, I highly recommend that you incorporate microsuction into your weekly hearing aid cleaning schedule.